Hello, students. Welcoming you to the second 9 weeks here. This video, first of all, is mostly for the kids that will be considered virtual because I will likely be able to touch base with everyone else that's in the classroom. So after one, section of 9 weeks that we've gotten through, we've learned some things. Hopefully, most of your experiences were at least somewhat smooth. It was a learning process for a little bit for everybody, but we did run into some things. At least I did personally that we got to make sure that we have ready to go for the next 9 weeks. Okay, so there's some simple expectations, and if you're a 100% virtual student, they're pretty straightforward. The way that my class is set up is each day basically I'll make a video similar to this with my face obviously in a small camera, and then like a PowerPoint presentation of the notes for that particular day. Many days we'll have an assignment to work on, not necessarily every day. Probably most importantly though is within that video you'll have a couple questions you need to answer. You'll turn in. It's basically your participation points. So just to give you an idea of what this page will eventually look like, last 9 weeks, okay, I just go day by day, and you can see that you have video directions each and every day. Sometimes the videos are less than 5 minutes. They're usually about 10 to 12 minutes, maybe stretching into 15 minutes in certain cases. So I try to respect your time with that. And so again, I want to believe that you'll be able to stay on top of things. The biggest problem that we had last semester last grading period, was kids would get so far behind, and they wouldn't watch the videos ever, or they would think that they could just click on these links and do these assignments that you'll eventually see, and then we get to the exam and all the students are like, I don't know what to do on the exam. I didn't watch any of the videos. Well, that's part of being a virtual student. Understand that you have to keep up with stuff. Okay, so that's one of the expectations. The other expectation is simple as well. Communicate when you're not sure. Okay, and we'll be able to work through some of those things. And if as long as you communicate, and I know that you're confused, then I can help you with some of that confusion. Okay, so the first thing you'll want to do for this particular semester is you'll want to click on Google Classroom and join with this code here. Okay, so once you get that code, you'll see that it's going to take you to what Google Classroom looks like, and hopefully this isn't the first time that you are seeing Google Classroom and using it. Okay, so the way Google Classroom is set up, very similar to that e-learning page, is it's just going to go day by day, and every day you're going to have a list of tasks. It's going to look exactly the same, all right, or it's going to include the exact same stuff that are in your daily tasks here. The way that I use Google Classroom is you're obviously going to eventually want to turn stuff in on here. So I obviously have it in my possession, and then I can give you a grade on it. The grades you see on Google Classroom really don't necessarily mean anything. You'll want to still follow on PowerSchool, but there is some tracking of who's turned stuff in that I do plug grades in, okay, if you do turn it on here or turn it in on here. Okay, so just to give you an example of what your stream is going to look like. Now, Google Classroom, I kind of do the opposite direction. So obviously, we ended with day 38 in the first grading period, going all the way back down to the bottom. You can see each day I have a set of things to do. Okay, so I think it's fairly organized with knowing what, or allowing you to know what you need to do. So anyway, if you have questions about that, make sure you see me. Those of you that have been virtual, you know that you need to check into attendance. Don't forget to do that. I remind you on a day-to-day basis. I try to. And today, what you're responsible for doing is you've got a couple things. Okay, the first assignment that you have is this plane crash activity. Okay, and I have a separate video here that's going to go through instructions for filling these different things out. All right, there's a quick questionnaire about some things, just some personal info. You're going to introduce yourself to me with some simple introduction questions. And then you have this plane crash activity, which is a little bit unique, especially if you're by yourself. So you'll want to watch these instructions. They're 4 minutes long, and you'll know what you want to do. The last thing I want to mention is I also have a parent letter that just kind of explains everything I just said in this video. If you have your parent sign this paper, which in your case, if you're virtual, I'll give you a free missing assignment. So if you're missing something, then I'll be able to give you credit for having done that. So it gives you a little bit of an advantage. It lets you know and your parents know that I'm available, my contact info, and kind of some things that I've mentioned throughout this video. So anyway, hopefully you're approaching this. Some of you kind of need this clean slate. Some of you obviously, know what you're doing, and you'll be just continuing business as usual. But either way, all right, make sure tomorrow you check for the day 2 video. All right, it'll be generally pretty quick, and we'll be getting into our notes and stuff because it is a shortened grading period as compared to the second semester. So keep staying healthy. I'm going to say it one more time. Make sure that you're communicating when things are confusing. Don't let all this stuff pile on. Okay, so my one piece of advice to that is that teachers are going to expect a little bit more than what they did the first grading period, because now they're going to expect students to know things. So the sooner that you communicate, the better. But I promise you, if you stay on a day-to-day basis and you put a half hour, 45 minutes aside a day for economics, you're going to be able to keep up just fine. Okay, so I look forward to getting to know you through some of these questionnaires and things like that, looking forward to kind of moving through autumn here, and it's going to be Christmas break before we go. Okay, nice to meet you guys virtually. We will talk soon.